Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew. Today, we're going to be discussing building healthy relationships with food and body. So before we get started, I'm going to share with you our general disclaimer. This information is being provided in order to increase your awareness. It is not intended to be used as medical advice. If you do believe you have any medical conditions or specific questions regarding your health, please speak with your physician. So to get started, we're going to start with an activity. Feel free to pause the recording after I ask this question. What do you believe the best diet for maintaining a healthy weight and warding off chronic disease would be? Would you think it is low carb, high fat, a vegetarian, or a vegan diet? So feel free to pause the recording. And now that you have your answer, I will share with you that there is no one best diet that works for everybody. However, the best thing that you can do is have a diet that has all different food groups, and it is one that you could stick with long term. So this infographic on the screen today is my plate. My plate shows that we should be eating foods from all food groups, that being fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. So again, there's no one best, diet that's going to work for every single person, but more so what you can realistically do. So just a couple points that I want to go over before we get into the meat of the presentation. Just some expectations of the info that we are going to cover. So we are going to discuss what our relationship with food is and how we look at food. So when we think about food, are we fearful? Are we very rigid? Do we restrict certain foods? Are we looking to maintain our health when it comes to food? Are we cutting back on calories and food groups without a clinically significant reason? We're also going to take a look at what our main goal is when it comes to food. Are we looking to optimize our own individual wellness? Are we looking to lose weight? We're going to discuss how these things may go hand in hand. We're also going to look into improving our relationship with our food and giving our bodies permission and honoring our desires, our hunger cues, when we have cravings, things like that. We're going to take a deep dive into that. And just as a general disclaimer for that section, we are going to be providing just general guidelines. However, if you have any specific medical conditions that require individualization when it comes to food groups, calories, things like that, that's when you're going to want to speak with a registered dietitian as well as your doctor. Last thing that we will discuss today is just a general explanation that every single person is going to need a different amount of food, different calories, macronutrients, and it's going to be based on a couple different things such as our resting metabolic levels, our activity levels, and so on. But again, all of this is just general information. Again, if you have any specific conditions, you're going to want to speak with a doctor. Okay, so getting into the presentation, we are going to discuss what a healthy diet versus going on a diet is. So when we look at a healthy diet, this is just when we are getting the proper amount of nutrients and calories from all different food groups. So again, with my plate, what we discussed before, that's going to be protein, dairy, grains, fruits, and veggies. Whereas going on a diet is when we are limiting and restricting certain foods, when things become off limits. And going on a diet can be a lot less beneficial than just simply following a healthy diet. When we are looking at going on a diet and we are making things off limits, we tend to say things that aren't true or make generalizations. So we're saying that it's not okay to ever have something that is pleasurable or something that we want to eat, such as a dessert or a treat. We're saying that that is bad. And then we're also restricting our bodies with food groups and calories excessively. So that's when we're making those broad generalizations saying that I can't have this certain type of food because it's bad for me. I can't have carbs at all because carbs are bad. They're going to make me gain weight and body fat. And we know that's not always the case with these things. It's okay to have a pleasurable dessert sometimes. It's okay to have carbs. We don't want to completely cut out any certain food group. So a lot of these generalizations that we make saying, oh, carbohydrates are bad or desserts are bad and we should only eat certain vegetables and we shouldn't have X, Y, and Z. A lot of that actually comes from the diet industry. And the diet industry is as big as it is, as you can see on the screen here in the US alone, $72 billion. That is because as a culture, we are very obsessed with body image. Millions and millions of people every single year turn to the diet industry for help overcoming their own insecurities and issues with their relationship with their food and their body. And that's what the diet industry is here for. They play off of our insecurities, especially as I mentioned, as a society and as a culture, we are so key and honed in on those things. So when you're looking into the diet industry, these are going to be those programs and products that you see that they're selling, that quick fix for you. There's going to be those false promises, those before and after pictures. But when we look at the fine print, it always says, results may vary, because these products and programs are typically quick fixes that aren't resolving any actual underlying issues or looking into disordered eating. Diet industry is also very good at playing off of our emotions. We feel guilt and shame because we are not experiencing these sustainable results that were advertised. So that's what's going to lead you to the next fad diet. And that will hopefully give you that quick fix that time. So it's always one after another after another. And again, it's a lucrative market, $72 billion. And a lot of it is just profiting from the obesity epidemic in this country. The key takeaway for the diet industry is that it's the diet that fails the dieter, not vice versa. A lot of these quick fixes, they're not going to work, and they're not supposed to work because it's not addressing the underlying cause. So just because you didn't meet that before and after that was expected based on the program doesn't mean you failed. It's a quick fix that's not going to help every single person. A lot of the diet industry is promoting fad diets as well. And again, these do not solve the real problem here. These fad diets, they come and they go, and they always involve the elimination of food groups. Certain foods and food groups are the enemies. Again, fad diets are only popular for a short amount of time. Think of them like a fashion trend. They're going to give you these false promises saying that there is going to be a significantly quick weight loss with nonsensical health improvements. These are not sustainable over long periods of time because they are so restrictive. You're going to be lacking on key nutrients that are going to hurt you in the long run. Even if you do see results short term, typically these results will not last because they are so restrictive. And again, they're not addressing the underlying issues that you may have with disordered eating and your own relationship with your food and your body. Key takeaway here, age-old adage, if it is too good to be true, it probably is. Some trending fad diets that you are likely familiar with. So juicing and cleansing, the Whole30, intermittent fasting, alkaline diet, anti-inflammatory, paleo, keto, gluten-free. You've probably heard of all of these over the past few years, some more popular now than others. But what these fad diets all have in common is that they're going to use attractive language to you. Think of how they are portrayed in the media when you look at a magazine or a newspaper, if you're on the internet, TV, those celebrity influences saying how great these are, how in just a couple weeks they lost so much weight and now they have that perfect body, et cetera, et cetera. They're all going to use these attractive methods to make it seem like it is the best thing ever. Saying that you're going to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. There's no diet out there that's going to have you lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks, especially a diet that's going to have you keep that weight off and not gain it right back. And again, it's just that cultural norm that we're looking at in our culture and society. As I mentioned, you're going to see these everywhere. TV, internet, you have the celebrity endorsements. So be very careful when you're looking at some of these. Again, common traits that they're going to have every single one of these fad diets. They're going to overemphasize certain foods as those miracle foods or those superfoods. Those are the things that you're going to want to eat. And then everything else, you're going to eliminate them because those other things are bad for you. You're going to have an extreme restriction of calories. You're only going to have to do this program a couple of weeks, and you're going to have immediate results. So these are all red flags that you want to look for. These are all things that you're going to want to pay very attention to. these promises of rapid weight loss, especially when they say you're going to lose all this weight and you don't need to change any habits that you may have. So they're going to say you don't need to exercise, you don't need to change anything else that you're doing in your life. You're just going to take this magic pill, you're going to eat this magic food, and you're going to be cured of all of your issues. Again, it sounds too good to be true. You're going to see a lot of limited choices, excluding all these food groups, especially when there's that celebrity endorsement that we mentioned before. Also, one last thing, they have this miracle product. There's going to be some supplement, some pill, an herb, an extract, something that you're going to take in conjunction with all this, and that's going to be the magic fix for you. Again, all red flags to look out for when you're seeing about these new fad diets. When we're looking out for those red flags, we're going to want to try to find the truth here. Ask yourself questions. Is it promising a quick fix? Is there information just based on personal stories? Is there testimonies? Try to look behind the science and the research into it. Was all of the information that they're sharing with you just based on one study, or did they do a lot of studies and get some similar results? Were they cherry picking information to fit their narrative for this fad diet? What is the writer's qualifications? Who is making this fad diet or this program? Does it emphasize a single food or that magic fix again? And how accurate is the website? Is this fad diet from the 1970s or 80s and it's just getting popular now? So ask yourself these questions, be very mindful of what the answer's for before you jump into any sort of dieting. As always, you're going to want to speak with a nutrition professional, registered dietitian. You're going to want to speak with your healthcare provider, and only look at trustworthy websites. Look at your EDU websites, your government websites. Try to avoid or just be very mindful when you're on like .com websites. Couple definitions as we move through the presentation that I want to share with you. The first one is diet. This is the systemized approach to managing food intake and exercise over a period of time to lose weight. Very key right there, to lose weight. It is a goal. So again, you're just restricting yourself to small amounts of special kinds of foods over time with emphasis on intentional weight loss. Whereas the lifestyle change is over a period of time, you are incorporating positive changes into everyday routines to improve your health. So just to emphasize that this is long-term, there are going to be gradual positive changes and choices and improvements that you're going to make over time, and you're going to build on them. You typically only want to do a couple at a time. You want to start small, get a strong foundation, and then you can make more dramatic changes over time. But diet and lifestyle change we're going to be using a lot throughout the presentation, so just be very mindful of these two definitions here. So to go more in depth on what the difference between these two are, so a diet has a clear start and an end. Think of it as a finish line. I'm going to do a diet for 4 weeks and I have a specific goal to lose weight, whereas a lifestyle change is something that hopefully you can do for a very, very long time, if not the rest of your life. Whereas a diet, you're looking at removing all those bad habits. We're only focused on the negative. Whereas a lifestyle change, we want to look at all of the positives. We understand maybe not every diet is perfect, but with a lifestyle change, you could keep adding positive habits until they become permanent, and then you just add on those. So we're not hyper fixated on all the negative things we might be eating, and we're looking at all the good things that we could be eating. Diet is temporary, and again, lifestyle change, these are ideally permanent solutions. Diet, this is a big one on this slide. Diets look at food as the enemy, and food is not the enemy. I don't want anybody to think that. Food is fuel, and that's how we look at it in lifestyle change. Food is calories and nutrients, and these are things that our bodies need to survive. We can't get up and live our lives without calories. Calories are fuel, and that is a good thing. Food is never going to be the enemy. Of course, we could overindulge and have too much, and then it's stored as fat in our bodies. But regardless, we need food and we need fuel, so it is not a bad thing. Diets can be very judgmental when it comes to food and our bodies, whereas a lifestyle change is more curious. And what I mean by that is a lifestyle change, it's your program. You can tailor it to how it will work for you. You're going to try some things that may be out of your comfort zone, things that you're curious and interested in. And if they work, wonderful. If they don't, we're going to adjust, be flexible, and see how we could make them work. or try a different approach altogether. Because again, a diet is somebody else's plan that they wrote out for you, whereas a lifestyle change, it's your life, it's your plan, and it's your choices to make. It is a very tailored approach that will fit you. Again, lifestyle changes, small changes that can make a difference. So feel free to pause the presentation here. Think of some lifestyle changes that you can make. It doesn't need to be just for food. Think of them throughout your life and your daily habits. The ones I'm going to discuss in a moment are going to be fixated on food, but feel free to pause and think about them as I go through. So again, these lifestyle changes are going to be small, incremental, positive changes to improve our overall health. And again, we're going to be able to maintain these for a long period of time. So here's my list for you. It's going to be things like cooking more often at home rather than eating out, drinking more water instead of sugary drinks such as sodas and juices, eating slower and more consistently, trying to have more meals throughout the day, and listening to our body. When we are full, we are no longer going to eat, and when we're hungry, we're going to continue to eat. Eliminating any negative self-talk. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but not having negative thoughts and opinions around food, especially with, our emotions like guilt and shame. We're not going to feel guilty or shame for eating. Some other things that you could do, not related to food entirely, but trying to go to bed an hour earlier. What this can do is prevent midnight snacking, and that depends if that's something that you already do or don't. But if you do, one thing that could help, say you're eating dinner at 6 o'clock and maybe you don't typically go to bed until a little after 11. That's a pretty generous window there. You might be getting hungry right before bed. So if you try going to bed a little bit earlier, you won't be eating that late at night. A couple other things you could do just for your mental health: meditation, picking up hobbies, trying to be more active, and then just some other things that you could do. Feel free to, add these to your list, some things that you might want to do. Again, only start with one or two, pick some easier ones. Once you get the hang of those, then you could get some more challenging ones. So there are more than just a balanced diet to a healthy lifestyle. So I want to share all of these different keys with you. So the first one is what we've been talking about the whole time. To have a healthy lifestyle, you're going to have a balanced diet, and just some tips for you there. Things that we already mentioned: drinking more water, eating more fruits and veggies, enjoying your food, but being very mindful of portions, taking control of how much you're eating, and just getting that wide variety. But there's a lot more than just diet. So to go through: physical exercise, so getting any sort of activity that you can. It could be something very small. Again, just like a healthy lifestyle, you start out with very small changes. Get active maybe a couple times a week. Do small things. Try walking, take the stairs, avoid the elevator when possible. If you're going somewhere like the grocery store, try to park farther away. Start out small and build up with more things. Self-care and relaxation, so things that you do for you. We have very busy and hectic lifestyles. So try getting a massage, practicing meditation, visual imagery, setting aside some quiet time for yourself throughout the day. Getting a good night's sleep, very underrated. We want to get about 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night, and we want to practice good sleep hygiene. What that means: you want to sleep in a dark room, not be on your phone for at least about 2 hours before bed, things like that. Mental balance and social activity. Mental balance and social activity, doing things again that we enjoy, calling a friend, having lunch with a friend, doing things that bring us joy. You don't want it to be all work. You want to do things that you could enjoy on a daily basis. So why shouldn't you diet? Diets, again, they categorize food as good or bad. And remember, all food has value. Some foods might be better than others, but we don't want to look at food as good or bad, because remember what I said: food is fuel. We just have to look at the foods that are more value than others when we are selecting those healthy options. We don't want to say no to foods, especially if maybe they aren't the best choices, but we're going to want to eat those in moderation. And again, with dieting, we often ignore hunger cues. So we might starve ourselves for extended periods of time. So what's going to happen later is we're going to binge eat, and that is just our body's normal reaction to limiting ourselves extremely. So key takeaway here: telling us that we can't have something only makes us want it more, because we get preoccupied with those thoughts. So you don't want to be extremely restrictive because we're just going to bounce back and have even more of it. Talking about the diet cycle. So we mentioned that binge eating, those are normal reactions to our extended periods of time in the restriction phase. So we're going to have cravings. We're going to binge eat as soon as we get food. Because again, your body doesn't know the difference between being on a diet and being hungry. And eating is our natural response to hunger. The more you limit calories, the more restrictive you are, the more hungry you're going to be. So when you finally give in, you're going to eat way more than you need because your body doesn't know when you're going to get to eat again. So this diet cycle just talks about the vicious cycle of dieting. So we're going to start a diet. We might see some short-term results when we start to limit some calories, get some more activity and things like that. Eventually, it's going to get too restrictive. We're going to have too much nutrient deficiency, and it's going to reduce our metabolism, thus making it even harder to lose weight. Then once we're so restrictive, that's where I just discussed those cravings. You're going to have those cravings. It's your body's normal response to being hungry. And then eventually you're going to be so restrictive, you're going to binge eat. And that's going to lead to some negative emotions. You're going to feel guilt and shame because you think you did something wrong when your body just did what it does to survive. You might feel depressed. You might have some body dissatisfaction and poor self-esteem. You're going to give up on your diet. Any results that you might have seen in the beginning, you might gain some of that weight back, if not even more. And then you're going to eventually start a new diet again. So it's just a vicious cycle. It goes on and on and on. So that is where we kind of lead into yo-yo dieting. So going on these quick fixes over and over again lead to some long-term problems. So individuals that typically diet to lose weight specifically rarely succeed in maintaining that lost weight in the long term. And instead, what they're going to do is they're going to have another attempt and they're going to diet again, and then they're going to quit again. This is where that term yo-yo dieting comes from, because it's just the process of that repetitive pattern of dieting where we're having weight loss and then rapid weight regain, weight loss, then weight regain. So dieting often starts in young kids and teens, and that's when it leads to that weight gain, binge eating, and then it can turn into disorders years later. We typically don't see those in young kids, but it starts in teenagers. And then those who do diet, as I mentioned, are more prone to weight gain in the future. Typically, 2/3 of dieters regain more than they even lost. And again, 50% of studies report that weight cycling is correlated with an increase in body fat and belly fat. So rather than just gaining weight, a lot of these folks that are doing this yo-yo dieting are gaining more fat every single time. So the harms in dieting when you look at kids, teens, and adults. So kids are prone to weight gain and binge eating, but we typically, as I mentioned, don't see the eating disorders come from that. Whereas teens and adults, that's where we tend to see that trend. The repeated weight gain and cycle of binge eating and the yo-yo dieting turns into an eating disorder. There's studies out there that shows twins with the same genetics going through these yo-yo dieting. They typically see weight gain, but you typically don't see the binge eating and it turning into eating disorders. So we're going to discuss this continuum, if you would like to refer to it as that, from normal eating all the way to when it becomes an eating disorder. So I'm not going to go too into depth into all of these terms, but they're going to be helpful to understand. So normal eating is what we want to see for everyone. This is when we honor our preferences, meaning that if there's foods that we prefer, we still have them and we don't say no to them. If we are hungry, we eat. When we are full, we do not eat. Person that is a normal eater views food as neither good or bad. It's just food. And we're looking at it as fuel, as we mentioned before. We don't have any specific rules or rituals, and we just honor that relationship with our food and our bodies. The next one down is normative discontent. This one is very common. This is where we start to lay the foundation of good versus bad judgment with foods. This is where we start to place that morality into foods. So have you ever said this sentence to yourself after you had something? I'm so bad for eating that. Or I'm bad because I ate so much. You start to dance around with the idea that food and exercise are used as dishonor to the body, as a punishment because of what perceptions we might have towards what our health should be. So we're putting that morality into food. We might not have structured rituals or things like that, but we feel negative towards the food. So that one's very common. What we have next is chronic dieting or a chronic dieter. This is where we use food and nutrition with the indirect intention to seek out weight loss. So again, that dishonor towards the body is an attempt to dieting. We normalize poor body image. We have that negative self-talk that I mentioned before. So for example, you might be out with some friends and you're talking about how much bad food you've eaten or how much weight you've gained and that you hate your body and it's a big deal. You struggle with your perception of your body, and they can turn into negative food patterns. You might see a lot of binge eating and weight gain unplanned. So it can cause some psychological distress here. This very quickly leads into disordered eating. And this is where we start to see extreme restriction, punishment, very frequent dieting. And then we see some emotions such as anxiety and nervousness around food. We might be skipping meals, very chronic weight fluctuations, rigidity towards rituals and routines, and the big one here is a lot of guilt, a lot of shame with eating. We're very preoccupied by food, and it's starting to control us. We're no longer in control of eating, whereas eating can be controlling to us. Last one here, eating disorder. It quickly goes from a disordered eating pattern to an eating disorder. And this is just where there is a extreme disconnection, severe disturbances in the individual's behavior when it comes to eating patterns and thoughts and emotions around eating. So some statistics here. So numerous studies have linked the exposure to prevalence appearance ideal in mass media to body dissatisfaction and disordered eating. So likewise, socialized low self-esteem is a very common characteristic for individuals that have disordered eating patterns and behaviors. So very common for one to lead to the other. However, change does begin with you. Change begins with how we talk to ourselves and how we have conversations with our friends and our families around food. So before becoming a body image advocate, you need to be an advocate to yourself. So feel free to pause the presentation here. And I want you to think or write down some things that you love about your body. We could probably all name things very quickly that we don't like. But to be a body image advocate, you need to love yourself. You need to form that positive relationship with food and your body. So think about some things that you love about your body. Think even about some foods that you love, even if they're maybe not the best choices. And you want to honor those. Have those foods that you really enjoy, even if they're not the best choice every once in a while. You don't want to completely remove these foods from your diet. So think about those positive things that you love, and that is how change can begin with you. The next thing that you would be interested in would be intuitive eating. This is a great way to be a body image advocate. So think of this as the normal eating. There is the gold standard, if you will. This is where you're getting that mixed balance of foods. You're getting all different food groups. You're getting sufficient energy and nutrients to meet your body's dynamic needs. And what I mean by dynamic needs is that just understanding our bodies change over time. We have different needs for nutrition. Our hunger and fullness cues may change over time. Our food preferences, these all change because our bodies are dynamic and they change over time. Again, with intuitive eating, we have that positive relationship with food. We are not calling foods good and bad. We're not calling them healthy and fattening. We're removing that morality and that judgment and that negative talk around food. This is where we realize food is fuel. All food is calories. Calories are fuel. Social behavior is flexible and pleasurable when it comes to food. We don't have those very rigid structures around eating. When we are hungry, we eat. When we're not hungry, we don't. And then thoughts about restriction and rigidity towards food do not dominate. We might have some things, we have preferences around what time and what foods we eat, but those do not dominate our thinking. Some research into intuitive eating and why you should be an intuitive eater. Intuitive eaters have less disordered eating and less body dissatisfaction than those that don't. We see lower blood pressure for those that have intuitive eating patterns. There's a higher likelihood of being physically active. Those typically have greater amounts of fruits and vegetables eaten every single day. And intuitive eaters also have significantly higher HDL, which is the good cholesterol that we want to have. So a higher good cholesterol than those that do not have intuitive eating. And again, it really starts with you. We want to build that positive relationships at mealtime, especially around the families. You want to be a role model. We don't want to allow conversations that are hyper fixated on weight. So when we're having meals together with the family or friends, we don't want to discuss weight, especially with young children. Dieting before the age of 14 shows the highest risk factors for eating disorders, weight cycling, yo-yo dieting, etc. So again, to be a good role model, we're not going to label foods as good or bad, and we're going to try new things. We don't need to love every single food that we eat, but we are going to try new things. We're going to branch out, and we're not going to be rigid. Get the family involved when it comes with all aspects of food. So the cooking, the shopping, maybe you do gardening, make it a family activity. Be very mindful, and this might be the most important thing that I say, be very mindful of how you speak about food and your body in front of children. Kids absorb what you tell them. If your children, nieces, nephews, if they notice that you at dinner time are not eating a certain food, such as carbohydrates, they're going to wonder why you're not eating those foods. And if you say, oh, they make me gain weight, they make me unhappy, you have these negative connotations towards them, they're going to mimic that body dissatisfaction. They're going to want to cut out these foods. So be a positive role model. Be very mindful of how you speak about your own body and food around children. And again, make food fun. Have those family nights where you could get together and have a meal. I realize in today's world, it's very challenging with busy work schedules and other obligations outside of work, but try to write on a calendar certain nights during the week or the month that you know you can sit down and make it a family event and have fun around food. And again, there is health at every size here. Having a BMI of over a certain number doesn't mean that you're not healthy. Remember that a BMI is just your weight into your height. It's just a math equation. Rather, you're going to want to focus on mindful eating. You're going to want to look at exercise for enjoyment and specifically not as a punishment, and body acceptance. All of those things together can show positive measures for your cholesterol, your blood pressure, how physically active you actually are, self-esteem, and depression. Again, BMI, it's just the relationship of your weight and your height. It's not looking at things like your lean body mass, so your muscle mass. It's not looking at the weight from your bones and connective tissues and things like that. BMI is just like age, gender, ethnicity, race, where you work, where you live. These are all risk factors for disease. But again, just having that higher BMI doesn't mean you're unhealthy, and it doesn't mean these things are going to happen. If you are listening to this presentation and are part of MHR My Health Rewards or a Smart Steps program, what if you have a weight loss goal for the wellness program? So do's and don'ts here. Don't panic. Don't do one of these fad diets that we discussed. Don't look for that quick fix, and don't stress and obsess over it. What you do want to do is ask what your options are. Speak with a health coach and get started right away. Did you know that you can still meet your goal without needing to lose weight or not as much weight? Talk to Geisinger Wellness about a reasonable alternative. We can help you set up some other options to meet your goal. But again, do not panic. Reach out to us and we can work together. Benefits of working with a health coach. We could help you build some self-efficacy. We could help you explore the why behind some of the decisions and some of the barriers that you may have surrounding food, exercise, et cetera, et cetera. Think of us as a accountability partner. We could speak with you as much as needed, help you get that individualized approach to your weight loss or weight maintenance journey, and we could help you see the big picture. Think of us as just a supportive resource. We're here to strive to empower you to create these long-lasting positive lifestyle changes. To learn more, please contact us at the number at the bottom of the screen. There are some other ways to get help. On the slide here is the NEDA, National Eating Disorders Association helpline. Their hours and phone number on the screen. You could also speak with a healthcare provider by going to the provider's link at the bottom of the screen. Last slide for you guys today. This is our member resources. If you would like more information, please get in touch with us at that phone number on the previous slide. But as a Geisinger insurance holder, you are eligible for the mail order pharmacy, Medicare Advantage, 24/7 telenurse service. And also you can share your success with us through any programs, lifestyle changes that you might have made due to participation in one of our programs, challenges, classes, etc. Please share your story. We'd love to hear it. You can either go to the link at the very bottom of the screen, or if you have a smart device, you can scan the QR code at the bottom. But I would like to thank everyone for attending today. Again, my name is Andrew. It's my pleasure. Thank you for hopping on today. Take care, you guys.